Creatine is one of the simplest supplements out there, yet it's also one of the most misunderstood. Not because people are careless or lazy, but because the small details that actually determine results are rarely explained clearly. Many people try creatine once, feel disappointed, and decide it doesn't work for them. In reality, creatine almost always works when it's used correctly. If it failed you in the past, there's a very good chance you made at least one common mistake without even realizing it. One of the biggest issues is expectations. Creatine doesn't feel dramatic or stimulating, so people assume nothing is happening. Others focus on the scale, see weight go up slightly, and panic. Some take too much too fast, upsetting their stomach, while others forget that hydration suddenly matters more. Timing, consistency, and patience play a much bigger role than most people think, yet they're often ignored. Another problem is treating creatine like a magic fix instead of a support tool. Creatine doesn't replace movement, sleep, or decent nutrition. It enhances what you're already doing. Without activity, there's nothing for creatine to amplify. This leads many people to quit early, thinking the supplement is useless when the real issue is how it's being used. The truth is, creatine has a proven track record backed by decades of research. When results don't show up, it's rarely because creatine failed. It's usually because one or two small mistakes quietly killed its effectiveness. So before writing creatine off completely, it's worth understanding what actually matters. In this video, we're breaking down the 7 worst mistakes people make when taking creatine. Mistakes that sabotage results without anyone noticing. Mistake number 1. Buying low-quality creatine. Not all creatine is created equal, and this is a mistake many people never realize they're making. Creatine itself is inexpensive to produce, which unfortunately means some brands cut corners to increase profit. When quality drops, problems show up. Poor quality creatine can contain impurities, inconsistent particle sizes, poor solubility, or inaccurate dosing. This is often when people complain about stomach discomfort, bloating, nausea, or strange side effects that creatine unfairly gets blamed for. In reality, the issue usually isn't creatine, it's the product itself. Another problem is marketing confusion. Flashy labels, added flavors, or advanced blends make a product look more effective, but they rarely improve results. Sometimes they make things worse. Extra fillers, sweeteners, or unnecessary ingredients can irritate digestion, especially for people over 40 or 50 with more sensitive stomachs. When that happens, people assume creatine doesn't agree with them and stop using it altogether, missing out on real benefits. The fix is surprisingly simple. Stick to pure creatine monohydrate from a reputable brand. Look for third-party testing or certification to confirm purity and accurate dosing. Good creatine should dissolve reasonably well, taste neutral, and list only one ingredient, creatine monohydrate. Nothing fancy is required. This mistake often kills results quietly because people don't connect the dots. They change dosage, timing, or hydration when the real problem is what's in the scoop. Quality matters more than hype. When you choose clean, tested creatine, side effects usually disappear and consistency becomes easier. Sometimes the smartest move isn't doing more. It's simply using better. Mistake number 2. Mixing creatine incorrectly. How you take creatine matters more than most people realize, and this small detail quietly makes or breaks results. Many people scoop creatine into ice-cold water, give it a lazy shake, watch half of it float, and then drink it anyway. That doesn't stop creatine from working completely, but it does create unnecessary problems. Creatine dissolves much better in warm or room temperature liquids. When it isn't fully dissolved, it can sit heavier in the stomach, leading to bloating, cramps, or discomfort that people mistakenly blame on the supplement itself. Poor mixing also creates inconsistent dosing. If creatine clumps at the bottom of the glass, you may drink less than you think one day and more than expected the next. Over time, this inconsistency can slow muscle saturation and make results feel unpredictable. People then assume creatine isn't working, when the real issue is how it's being prepared. Fixing this is simple and takes almost no effort. Mix creatine in warm water, tea, or a room temperature drink and stir or shake it thoroughly until it fully dissolves. Once it's mixed, you can add ice if you prefer it cold. Some people also find mixing creatine into oatmeal, yogurt, or a protein shake improves digestion even more. This isn't about being obsessive, it's about making creatine easier on your body and more consistent day to day. Small habits create big differences over time. When creatine is properly mixed, digestion improves, dosing becomes reliable, and sticking with it becomes much easier. Mistake number 3, only taking creatine on workout days. Creatine doesn't care about your gym schedule, and this is where a lot of people quietly sabotage their own results. Many people only take creatine on training days and completely skip it on rest days, thinking it only matters when they work out. That sounds logical, but it's not how creatine actually works. Creatine isn't a pre-workout stimulant or a one-day performance booster. It works by slowly building up and staying saturated inside your muscle cells over time. When you skip creatine on rest days, muscle saturation drops or takes much longer to reach optimal levels. That means weaker effects, slower progress, and the frustrating feeling that creatine isn't doing much. In reality, the supplement is fine. Consistency is the problem. Your muscles don't reset on rest days. They're still repairing, adapting, and preparing for the next workout. Creatine supports that recovery process just as much as it supports training performance. Another issue is habit. Only taking creatine on gym days makes it easier to forget, miss doses, or stop altogether. Daily use turns creatine into a routine instead of a decision you have to think about. That routine is what leads to steady strength improvements, better endurance, and more noticeable results over time. The fix is simple. Take creatine every single day, training or not. 3 to 5 grams daily is enough for most people. No loading phases, no complicated timing, just consistency. When creatine stays saturated in your muscles, it finally gets the chance to do what it's supposed to do: support performance, recovery, and long-term progress. Mistake number 4, expecting fat loss from creatine. Creatine isn't a fat burner, and that's completely okay, but this is where many people get the wrong idea and end up disappointed. Some expect creatine to work like a weight loss supplement, melting fat and dropping the number on the scale. When that doesn't happen, they assume creatine isn't working. In reality, creatine is doing exactly what it's designed to do, just not what people mistakenly expect. Creatine's main job is to improve strength, power, and energy inside your muscles. It helps you push harder during workouts, recover faster between sets, and maintain performance over time. That matters because better training quality leads to better results. When you lift with more strength, move with more control, and stay consistent, fat loss becomes easier. Not because creatine burns fat directly, but because it supports the habits that lead to fat loss. The problem starts when progress is judged only by the scale. Creatine can increase water stored inside muscles, which may keep weight the same or even slightly higher at first. That doesn't mean fat gain. It often means muscles are better hydrated and more functional. If strength is improving, workouts feel stronger, and recovery is better, those are real signs of progress, even if the scale isn't moving the way you expected. The real mistake is using the wrong measurement. Creatine should be judged by performance, consistency, strength gains, and how your body feels during and after training. When those improve, fat loss usually follows over time. Creatine isn't a shortcut for weight loss. It's a tool that helps you build the foundation that makes real, lasting results possible. Mistake number 5, ignoring electrolytes. Water alone isn't always enough, and this is a mistake many people never realize they're making. Creatine pulls water into your muscle cells to improve strength and performance, but that process also affects electrolytes like sodium, potassium, and magnesium. If those minerals aren't balanced, you can feel flat, tired, weak, or even crampy, despite drinking plenty of water. That's when people assume creatine is the problem, when in reality the issue is what's missing from their hydration strategy. When you increase water intake without supporting electrolytes, your body can struggle to maintain proper fluid balance. Muscles rely on electrolytes for contraction, nerve signaling, and overall performance. Without enough sodium or potassium, muscles don't fire as efficiently, energy feels low, and workouts can feel harder than they should. This can be especially noticeable if you sweat a lot, train intensely, or drink large amounts of plain water throughout the day. The solution doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. Sometimes, a simple pinch of salt in a meal, adding electrolyte-rich foods like bananas, potatoes, leafy greens, or yogurt, or using a low-sugar electrolyte mix is enough to restore balance. Once electrolytes are supported, many of the side effects people blame on creatine disappear quickly. The key lesson here is that hydration isn't just about how much water you drink, it's about how well your body can use that water. Creatine isn't causing the problem, it's exposing an imbalance that was already there. Fix the electrolytes, and creatine usually starts feeling exactly the way it's supposed to: supportive, energizing, and effective. Mistake number 6, starting creatine during extreme dieting. Bad timing can ruin even the best supplements, and creatine is a perfect example. One of the most common mistakes people make is starting creatine while aggressively cutting calories or drastically lowering carbs. When your body is underfueled, it's already in survival mode, prioritizing basic functions over performance and muscle adaptation. In that state, creatine doesn't get a fair chance to do what it's designed to do, which leads many people to wrongly conclude that it doesn't work for them. Creatine supports strength, power, and recovery by helping your muscles produce energy more efficiently, but that process depends on having enough calories, carbs, and overall nutrients to support training and recovery. If you're barely eating, skipping meals, or running on very low carbs, workouts tend to feel flat, recovery slows down, and strength gains stall. Creatine can't override that. Instead of feeling stronger, you may feel no difference at all, or even feel more fatigued, simply because your body doesn't have the fuel to use the supplement properly. This doesn't mean you need to bulk or eat excessively to benefit from creatine. It just means your nutrition needs to be reasonable and sustainable. Even a modest calorie intake with enough protein and carbs can make a huge difference. When your body is fueled, creatine works with your training instead of fighting against a calorie deficit. The real mistake isn't creatine, it's starting it at the worst possible time. Choose the right moment, support your body with enough food, and creatine suddenly starts delivering the benefits people talk about. Mistake number 7, stopping creatine too often. Consistency beats perfection every time, especially when it comes to creatine. One of the biggest mistakes people make is treating creatine like a short-term experiment instead of a long-term tool. They take it for a week or two, forget about it, stop for a month, then suddenly start again expecting instant results. This on and off approach keeps muscles from ever staying fully saturated, which is when creatine actually does its best work. Creatine doesn't function like a pre-workout that gives an immediate kick. It works by slowly building up inside your muscle cells over time. When you stop taking it, those stores gradually drop. When you restart, you're essentially starting from zero again. That's why inconsistent use leads to inconsistent results and the feeling that creatine is hit or miss. In reality, the supplement isn't the problem, the routine is. Unless there's a specific medical or personal reason, there's usually no need to aggressively cycle creatine on and off. Research consistently shows that steady daily use is safe for healthy individuals and far more effective for strength, performance, and recovery. A simple daily dose, taken at the same time each day, keeps muscle stores topped up and progress moving forward. The key lesson is simple. Creatine rewards habits, not perfection. You don't need the perfect timing, the perfect workout, or the perfect plan. You just need to show up consistently. Treat creatine like brushing your teeth, a small daily action that compounds over time, and the results become far more noticeable and reliable. Bottom line, creatine works, but only when the small details are handled correctly. Most so-called bad experiences don't come from creatine itself, but from misunderstandings, low-quality products, poor timing, or inconsistent habits. When those details are ignored, creatine feels ineffective or uncomfortable, even though the supplement is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Use a high-quality creatine monohydrate, take it daily, stay hydrated, fuel your body properly, and give it enough time to work. Do that, and creatine becomes one of the most reliable, affordable, and well-researched supplements available. It doesn't need hype or complicated rules, just consistency and smart use. Fix the mistakes, respect the basics, and creatine stops being confusing and starts delivering real, noticeable results. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these mistakes surprised you the most? Or should I make a follow-up video on creatine after 50, kidney myths, or the best beginner protocol? Drop a comment, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.